It all amounts to investments. What makes educational facilities excel? Is it the amount of research? Is it the students? Is it the money spent on it? Whatever the causes, one fact remains. You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. That's how the saying goes. So you need to spend in order to attract the best calibers that can make you or can lead you to make profit and reach sustainability. In order to do that, the right ingredients need to be present. You need a market, you need professionals, and you need to be present. You need a regulatory framework in place. What is being witnessed these days in the educational sector needs to be scrutinized and needs to be understood. For so long, we have been looking at improving the sector from one aspect. How much money do we need, or does the government need, in order to sustain, in order to keep the status quo, as they say? Not to grow, not to develop, not to keep up with world development and progress, and certainly not to excel. But this is changing, and new benchmarks are being set. Good evening. Welcome to the Business Insider. You're watching Nile TV International. I'm Ayman Salah. We'll be back. Let's start with the first news item. The Suez Canal Authority will slash transit fees for car carriers traveling between Northern Europe and Southeast Asia by 5% starting the 1st of July till the end of the year, as it looks to boost traffic. Container ships and bulk carriers traveling between West Africa and the Far East will also get a 75% break for the same period, according to the Suez Canal Authority. It also prolonged lower costs for tankers after announcing to extend price breaks on container ships and bulk carriers traveling between the Americas and Southeast Asia to average 15 to 75% until the end of this year. This follows cuts offered at the end of last year, which provided liquefied natural gas, oil, and liquefied butane gas carriers up to 75% off transit fees. The Suez Canal Authority targets more shipping traffic through the canal because the revenues are an important source of hard currency. April was the highest revenue month for the country, bringing in more than $550 million. Cairo is one of the least expensive cities for expatriates in the world, according to an annual cost of living survey. The nation's capital was ranked 137th out of 209 global cities. The findings are based on the prices of more than 200 goods and services in each city, including housing, transportation, food, clothing, household goods, and entertainment. The annual survey helps multinationals calculate how much to pay expat employees. Cairo is the 5th cheapest Middle Eastern city listed on the index, behind Tunis, Algiers, Istanbul, and El Rabat. The three most expensive global cities for expats are Ashgabat, Hong Kong, and Beirut. The Lebanese capital is now the most expensive in the region, climbing 42 places on the index due to the ongoing economic crisis and the collapse of its currency. Also expensive regionally, Riyadh comes in 29th and Dubai 42nd. Those were the news items we have for you for this week, and we'll be back to start our discussion. Welcome back to the Business Insider. So tonight we're discussing the role of private universities in economic development. I'm joined by Dr. Mohamed Shennawy, the Vice President of Al Galala University. Al Galala University is a national university, but the regulatory framework is going to be one of his main specialities in tonight's episode. A pleasure to have you with us on the show here tonight. Let's start with this report, and then we return to start our discussion.
Investor interest in Egypt's private sector education is high. The value of private sector higher education is clear. The employment rate of private sector university graduates averages at 95% according to the World Bank. This is partly because private university students often study disciplines with direct market relevance and are trained in skills that make them more employable, like communication, language, and computer skills. Private sector agility also makes these universities better positioned to respond to sector disruptions. However, current enrollment in private post-secondary education institutions in Egypt stands at only 16.5%, compared with an average of 21% in the MENA region, 52% in Asia, and 50% in Latin America. And private universities comprise only 4% of higher education in Egypt. They number 25 as of late 2020, coexisting with some 29 public universities and hundreds of public and private technical colleges and vocational institutes. While public universities tend to be large multi-faculty research institutions, most private universities enroll fewer than 10,000 students. Families are willing to pay high tuition fees, thus the demand exists. In some universities, annual tuition fees in 2020 stood over $8,000 and can reach $20,000. The average fees to attend Cairo University, one of the public schools, stands at just $64 per year for Egyptian citizens and $1,000 for non-Egyptians. Regulatory amendments are being made to encourage investments. Under the International Branch Campuses Act, ratified in July 2018, established international universities can set up branches in Egypt by building their own campuses or partnering with an Egyptian educational hub. Branch campuses have flourished, with 4 ratified. Under the legislation, there are no restrictions to tuition hikes, and the university branches can set their own curricula. The campuses pay only 2% of their annual tuition income to the government. Securing new investments worth billions of Egyptian pounds between 2014 and 2017. 6.4 billion Egyptian pounds was invested in establishing 8 new private universities and 3 billion Egyptian pounds invested in building 30 new colleges within private universities that are not part of the International Branch Campus program. Egypt's growing population, low private sector participation in the education sector, coupled with increasing demand for private education and rising income levels, all represent investment opportunities.
Welcome back to the Business Insider. So tonight we're talking about the role of private universities in economic development. With us tonight is Dr. Mohamed Shennawy. He is the Vice President of Al-Galala University. He's also the advisor to the Minister of Higher Education for International Cooperation. A pleasure having you on the show here tonight.
It's my pleasure and honor. And actually, I'm extremely happy and delighted that I'm talking about the education and research from the business side.
Right.
Because this is a new
This is where
era.
Sustainability comes from.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's start with Al-Galala University. It is one of how many universities, under which umbrella, and what's new about such universities?
This was a vision to start to have the fourth generation universities in Egypt. So since President Sisi came and he said that we will have such universities in Egypt, and in 2017 with Professor Khaled Abdel Ghaffar, the Minister of Higher Education, we started a plan to have those 4 national universities. Galala was on top of that, plus King Salman, Alamein, and Umm Sura. So you could imagine in 2017 there was only sand. 2020 you have 1,200 students, 29 programs are working, 50 faculties, administrations more than 100, working in harmony, finishing the first year, signing agreements, the way you are teaching, the programs you are providing, the international cooperation you are doing. So this is a change. This is a change from all aspects and how you are proceeding, and not only stopping at the 4 national universities, but you are extending to have the approval to have another 16 national universities all over the country, plus the 3 technological universities that you already started in 2019, and you have an extra 6 technological universities. This is only, I'm talking about the national universities, apart from the international branch campuses and the private universities. And this is what's unique about the vision of the government as regard the higher education and research, and what's specific for Galala University, that I think this university, and I hope that this university will be one of the internationally well-recognized international universities, and one of the highest ranked young universities within 5 to 10 years. This is our vision and mission to do.
And all you talked about, you're talking a time frame of less than 4 years.
Yes. Yes.
Impressive. Il Galala is one of 4 national universities.
Yes, sir.
Why national? Why are we going through the government to create universities? What's going to be different this time from the old heritage that we have and we're suffering from?
The government has to start. And the government already gave the example by building those 4 national universities, and you found that the private sector is following. First, these national universities, they are independent. They are not depending on the government. They are built. They are with a fees for the students.
Ah, so they're not subsidized?
No, sir. It's tuition fees, but there are scholarships. So it's not only for a certain sector in the community, but we are offering scholarships.
Which is normal.
Yes, this has to be offered for those who had high grades. And at the same time, you are paying for a tuition fee. And once you give this example, so according to our feasibility study, within 7 to 10 years, you'll have your return of investment and you'll start generating money. And the money that will be generated will be re-embedded or reinvested in the university. At the same time, you'll find that the private sector started to follow what the government is doing. And that's why in 2018, we have the law of 162, which allows for international branch campuses to start in Egypt. And the results were magnificent. In only 2 years after this law, we have now 4 branch campuses already started in the new administrative capital, and a lot to come.
Which specialities are we seeking to attract? Which, not only faculties, but specializations? What are we trying to enhance in this country, and what's the philosophy behind it?
Thank you so much for this question, because it's crucial to know where are you going. It's not only about the buildings and to have a fancy buildings. No, what are the type of education and research you are going to generate from these buildings? So the programs were very crucial when we're choosing the programs that will be offered, not only in the national universities, but when we are discussing this also, the branch campuses, to be within Egypt Vision 2030. You have to see where are you going. You have to look at the sustainable development goals that you want to achieve. You have to look at what are the needs of the local market, what are the needs of the regional market, and what are the needs for the whole world. So we are looking at the new trends and the new jobs that will be offered in the upcoming 10 years. There will be jobs that will disappear, and there will be new jobs. And I think with the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw all how the artificial intelligence, the biotechnology, the nanoscience, all of these specialties are in the rise. The digital marketing, all of these specialties are increasing. There are a lot of demands, plus the mechatronics, the genetics, the robotics, all of these specialties are being offered now in a systemized way in all over our national and also the branch campuses that already starting in Egypt. So this is the way. Not only that, but the multidisciplinarity. You cannot only work, so we gave a major and there will be a minor, and there will be interdisciplinarity between different fields. So he could be studying medicine, but he could have a minor of business. He could be working on economics, but he wants to have a minor in law. So this is what's new about the national universities.
Which is the system, the recognized system in some Western countries.
And you have to see what's the needs of the market and what's the need of the industry. Because we had a gap, and we have to commit that. There was always a gap between the academia and the industry. There was no trust from the industry towards the academia. And that's why we are always trying to make this link. We are making a lot of cooperation, workshops, interactions between our students and faculty and the industry, bringing them to the university, taking our students to the industry and to the market so that they are oriented. Both sides can see and listen and hear each other. And accordingly, you start to adapt what are you going to teach those students. And we are trying, for instance, in Galala, what we are trying that training and real training in the market has to be one of the needs, a must to pass your degree and to have your final degree. This is a must. And this is what we are trying to embed.
Training, you mean taking an internship?
Internship.
All right.
Internship.
This is a requirement.
Yes.
Because in European universities, you cannot graduate from university without an internship.
And the same in the United States. So
Right.
we are trying to have such internships to all disciplines and all specialties in the university. And that's exactly what we are trying to embed.
But do you pave the way, do you facilitate internship opportunities for students?
Yes, and that's why we are always talking with the industry, talking with the market. So if you are working in the business sector or you are in the business, we are talking with a lot of different banks and different companies to have this internship and so on.
Let's talk about the business sector for a while.
Yes.
Here you talked about national universities, and it all amounts to investments at the end of the day.
Yes.
What would lure in investors in this sector?
A lot of things now are attracting investment in the higher education and research. There's a lot of, if you make your visibility study, you'll find that it's very profitable for the private sector. It's making a lot of return of investment and is very demanded, not only from the local market, but from the regional market also. Egypt, again, is gaining its reputation as an educational hub. According to the UNESCO, Egypt is one of the best 20 educational hubs worldwide. Before, we were before Egypt was the hub, then we lost that, and now we are regaining that. That's why we started a very important initiative called Study in Egypt. And according to this, we are exceeding now more than 90,000 international students are coming
Talk to us
Egypt.
about this initiative.
This initiative started in 2018, where we found that we have to start investing in higher education and to bring back international students to Egypt. So we started to think about the student from the point he looks at your website, which university he's going to take, and taking him from there and applying to the visa. That's why we are coordinating with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He's arrived to Egypt, then we are talking with the Ministry of Interior, took all the ministries that are involved until he is being accepted in the university, started his education in the university, all the facilities needed, how to bring his family to visit him, how to facilitate all his life in Egypt, because he will be your ambassador when he's back to his country. And that's
Very
exactly
true.
what we are trying to facilitate. It's not an easy process. That's why we are always having to see what are the defects in our system, and we're trying to improve it so that when the students goes into our application, he finds everything facilitated until he is in his university and graduated. Once he's graduated, once he's back, you'll find one student can bring you more than 10 to 20 students will be, if he has a good experience.
You said it correctly, they become ambassadors for you. Let me return to the investor aspect. According to reports, there are some bureaucratic red tapes that hinder the ease of access for investors. How is this being addressed?
This was before, but after the law that for the private universities, there are now two types of universities. You can have a private university, or you can have an international branch campus. And you are the investor, and you are providing all the administrative work, and the branch campus will provide the certificate or the degree from this. So according to the law 2009, this is to have a private university, but we are facilitating everything. So you are just taking, like, you write all the, we give them what are the needs, and you pass through the process, which is a lot facilitated, or you go as international branch campuses, and we are offering a lot of lands now for the private sector to start building new universities, because let's look at what's happening. Now we are having 3.2 million students, which means that in the age between Egyptians, of course, between 18 and 22, 37% of those are in the higher education system. What we need to do by 2030 to have 50% of this age into the higher education system. To have this, you have to have at least more than 70 universities ready with small capacity between 10,000 to 15,000. To have this, you have the government cannot do that alone. That's why the private sector has to be involved in this process to achieve our objective. So this was very crucial, and that's why we are facilitating the process of having universities. That's why we reached now 35 private universities, the four international branch campuses, plus the higher institutes that were working, and we are trying now to push also towards the technological universities, which is an extreme need for the market now.
That's exactly the point I was going to refer to. We're concentrating on universities, but there are also technical institutes, if you will. You don't have to be a university graduate. You can also be a specialist, a technician, a certified technician in a certain field that doesn't belittle you, if you will. Are we concentrating on that, or are we just talking about higher education?
No, we are concentrating on that, and that's why I mentioned the technological universities. So in the technological universities, it's a pathway of 2+2. So you can have 2 years, go to the market, work, do whatever, and you can return back and have the 2 years and you get your bachelor degree. Or you had a good work and you continue in your career. So this is a crucial thing. That's why our aim is to have 27 technological universities around all the governorate in Egypt. And they will be according to the needs of each governorate. So for instance, you are going to have a technological university in Damietta. So what are you concentrating? Of course, furniture. You are going to have one in Hurghada. So you'll concentrate on fishery and you'll concentrate on tourism. On Luxor, the same. In the Delta, you'll concentrate on the agriculture and the needs of the agriculture, and so on. Textile, of course, if you're going to be in Tanta or Gharbiya Governorate. So this is exactly what we are trying to aim. For instance, the one in Bani Suef, it's near one of the very big factories there. So we are linking this technological university with this factory and making like an agreements with this factory, so to provide the technicians. Also, if you're working in nearby hospitals, and there are a lot of defects in the technicians working in the health sector. For instance, the orthopedic prosthesis, the dental prosthesis, all of this. So we are graduating those technicians working in these fields.
How is the coordination with the private sector in terms of offering the services and setting up the service? You know, when it comes to multinationals or big companies, there is a major component whereby they have to concentrate on their CSR, on their corporate social responsibility. And this is one proper venue to invest in when you're talking about CSR, when you're talking about value added, if you will, for a certain company in a certain area. You mentioned Damietta, you mentioned Beni Suef and so on. I would think of the petroleum sector, the natural gas sector, the major companies. They're present in either in the Western Desert, in the North Coast, in onshore, offshore, as they say?
I'm laughing because we are in Galala University. We're just talking with different industrial companies and those who are working in petroleum, those who are working in cement, and according to their CSR, they are and their sustainability development SDGs, they are coming and offering a lot of activities like training for the students, scholarships for the students, working to have a green campus in Galala University. All of these activities are in cooperation with the private sector through their CSR. And we're doing a lot of activities and a lot of, I could say, cooperation with the private sector so that they feel what's the need and the importance of the university for the community. You can see Galala is a very new city, and the core of this city is Galala University. We are building a whole community around the university. For instance, from our perspective as a community service, we were offering a medical convoy for the area of Galala. You couldn't imagine how the people were fascinated with the activities and the services you are providing.
There's a huge demand because they haven't seen this for
never
since history.
Yes. So this is exactly how you are linking your university and your higher education and work you're doing with the needs of your community.
Of your society.
Yes.
Right. And you're also filling their gap.
Exactly.
Because they need labor.
Exactly.
And what better labor force than the one I have trained or I have participated in training, right?
Can I tell you something? From the first beginning, we had our students visiting one of the factories. After the visit and the interaction, they offered us the 5 upgraders from this program will be offered a job in our factory, and the contract was signed. That's how you link, a real link between the university and the industry.
And the industry and the societal needs. Rare specializations. This country is full of rare opportunities. Even if you look at Egyptology, for example.
This is the very first thing I was going to say.
Exactly. Maritime resources. We're blessed. We're blessed with a history that is uncomparable with any other history. We're blessed with a geographical location that gives you 2 seas, a river, the whole country, the setup of the whole country, the geography is full with riches. You talked about linking with Egypt's 2030 vision, with the SDGs and so on and so forth. What are the major highlights when you're talking about the resources that you have with this industry?
Let me talk about different things that you mentioned now. We are trying to see the different resources, what are the demands of the community. This we have to fulfill. This is very important. Also looking at what are special for us so that our students are unique in this area. And at the same time, what can attract international students to come and taught in Egypt and in Galala for a specific. So there are different areas that's very, I could say, specific for Egypt. If you're going to be, you need to taught or learn Arabic. The best, before they were coming to Egypt and then they started to go to other nearby countries, but now we are returning this. When you're talking about Egyptology and you need to talk about the history, when you're talking about the maritime, there are certain diseases like the tropical diseases you have to come and here and come and study in Egypt. That's why we are trying to have our flavor, our special...
our edge.
Our edge. This is exactly the word that I was going to say. Because Egypt is always and will be unique in many areas. That's why we are trying to re-attract the international students. Not only that, but we had a lot of our kids traveling abroad to be offered special degrees. And that's why from international
Not only special degrees, even normal degrees.
normal degrees, we are bringing for them the best universities worldwide. So, and this is, I can announce, we had from Hiroshima University, now we signed an agreement that was announced and officially signed to have 15 Japanese professors to teach in the dental and engineering and the Japanese language in Galala University. We also signed a term sheet with Arizona State University to start to have a dual degree in Galala University in cooperation with Arizona State University, which is one of the best 150 universities worldwide and one of the, as they mentioned, #1 in innovation in the United States and highest impact ranking from 3 to 5 worldwide. So we're talking about a very high, respectable university. And now Egypt is attracting very high-ranked universities, not only from the United States, but from the United States, from the United Kingdom, many from European countries. On the other side, I have to mention that for the first time, a European country like Portugal to have their universities outside of Portugal are accredited from Portuguese government to start their first Portuguese university here in Egypt. This is a memorandum of understanding that was just signed 10 days ago between His Excellency Professor Khaled Abdel Ghaffar and the Portuguese minister. And you're going to tell me, and what about Portugal? Portugal is the head of the EU. Those universities are one of the best 200 universities in worldwide. And this means that your student will be accredited all over the 27 European countries.
Which is important because one would think, who speaks Portuguese? You have Brazil, you have Portugal, and you have Angola. You don't have anybody else.
No, there are 8 countries, so you are attracting those students from the African countries like Angola. If they cannot travel to Portugal, they will travel to Egypt.
They can travel to Egypt.
And that's exactly our aim. We are getting back to Africa. This was missed for decade, but now Egypt is back to its continent, bringing a lot of scholarships, bringing a lot of students from Africa, and sending a lot of professors and doing a lot of cooperation with the African countries.
Let me go back to the renowned national universities. You have Cairo University, you have Ain Shams University, you have Alexandria University. These are universities entrenched in this country's history. What will happen to those, and how are you going to link it to the system, or is it going to be a parallel system?
They are the core. I'm a graduate of Ain Shams and I'll always be proud of that. They are the core of this country in higher education and research. And those universities that we are talking about now, when we are sitting together, 21 out of the 27 are in the best 1,200 universities according to the Times Higher Education. In 2015, you only, before you didn't have, in 2015 only 4, in 2021 you have 21 out of those universities are in the best 1,200 universities according to the Times Higher Education. Not only that, but if you are going to look at the subject, you will look at the School of Pharmacy in Cairo University is one of the best 200, the School of Medicine in Ain Shams University, one of the best 300 schools worldwide. So those universities are the core. The government is giving a lot of support to those universities. They are starting to make a lot of reform in the education, and that's the strategy of the Ministry of Higher Education, which is increase access, which I mentioned, the reform of the programs, curricula, and linking these curricula with the industry and the internationalization.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're doing. So that those universities are the core, and a lot of support and a lot of change are happening in these universities.
If the government is basing its investments on a 7 to 10 year return period, then definitely the private sector, with the demand that is present for higher education, can narrow this period to even a narrower time frame. Is this our only competitive edge, the demand side?
Not only that, but there are a lot of other things. It's not only that, but the research side also. is very important. When you invest in research, if you're investing a penny, you'll get 20. And look at the numbers that are coming at regards to the research.
Invest in research. This is a key word,
Yes.
invest in research. You have companies that invest a good portion of their budgets on research.
Yes.
We're very far from the limited amounts that are being invested in research for companies, not for a nation, not for a university.
But that's what we are doing, investing in research, and the fruits are coming. The latest report mentioned that for the first time, Egypt is #1 in Africa in scientific publications. For a decade, since 1996, it was South Africa. This year, Egypt is #1 in publications with more than 32,000 publications coming from the Egyptian universities and research centers. Egypt, they wrote that in the article, which I will share with you, mentioning that Egypt became the medical hub for the African continent, and a lot are expected. Yesterday, actually Tuesday, yes, we were talking about one of the very innovative hubs in Ain Shams University, and we were talking about that we are having a lot of our research in the area of the TRL, or technology readiness level, between 1 to 3. But you want it to be from 7 to 8 to be ready to go to the market. And there is always an area which is called between 4 and 7, it's called the Death Valley for any research. And we are trying to overcome this Death Valley to link our research to the community, so that you start to see the fruits of your research and the effect on the community and the real link between the market and
the research and the market.
And that's why we started what's called the law of scientific incentives, which allows the universities, whatever, it's private, public, national, and the research centers to have their own startups and companies. And they already started that. So you are starting to get rid of this value.
The regulatory framework.
Yes.
The regulator. What would make me as an investor be comfortable with the regulatory framework? I don't want to compete in an uneven playing field. How are you going to safeguard that for the investor?
There's a lot of demand for the students, and the students are keen to, you're talking about universities with more than 250,000 students, 350 students like Ain Shams and Cairo University, and there's a lot of demand from the students to go to universities. And as I mentioned, we need to increase from 37% to 50% of this age to go to the university. And at the same time, I'm trying to decrease the number of students going into the public university and encouraging them to go to the private and the national universities. All of these, plus the international universities that are interested to offer their degrees here in Egypt, when you are investing in research, so all of these, and I'm offering you a very competitive price for the land you are going to have university, especially if you are going to areas where there is a demand. So you are not only concentrating in Cairo or in Alexandria.
I think we need to meet in a very short time frame, because if you said that in 4 years you have made such huge achievements for national universities, along with the private university branches that have opened up here in Egypt, I don't think we can wait for another year in order to follow up on our show, but I think we needed in a month or two to follow up on the progress that has been made. Dr. Mohamed Shennawy, Vice President of Galila University and advisor to the Minister of Higher Education for International Cooperation. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on the show. Thank you for joining us. See you same time next week. I'm Ayman Salah. Good night.